that all those who are contesting today will all have fantastic manifestos, well written, because it's easy to pay a consultant to write it for you. We're all going to speak well. We even have spokespeople that will help us to speak. The question now is, who can we trust that what he's saying he will do?
So guys, if you listen to Mr. Peter Obi's interview or his speeches, you will get to know that Mr. Peter Obi understands the problem of Nigeria and he's loaded with ideas on how to fix Nigeria. Apart from being loaded with ideas, Peter Obi is a man of character. Peter Obi is competent. Peter Obi is healthy. And Peter Obi has a very strong cognitive ability. So guys, I want you to listen to what Mr. Peter Obi told Nigerians on how he's going to turn things around for Nigeria. So listen to everything Mr. Peter Obi pointed out in this interactive session and let me know what you think in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notification bell so that each time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others.
That all those who are contesting today will all have fantastic manifestos, well written, because it's easy to pay a consultant to write it for you. We're all going to speak well. We even have spokespeople that will help us to speak. The question now is, who can we trust that what he's saying he will do? So I want us to remove all this from fantastic, Queen's English, well-educated listen. In fact, whenever I go to places, and I thank you for that introduction. Whenever I go to places now and they insist, oh, we want to read us your CV, I say, don't read it. Oh, but we want to tell, I say, yes. Because they will now start saying, oh, London School of Economics, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard. And I say, listen, educational qualification is not a measure of integrity. I've seen criminals who went to very good schools all over the world with fantastic results and everything. So what we're saying is, who can we trust? Who is going to be able to have the political will to do what he's saying? So if somebody says to me, I'm going to fight corruption, for example, show me where you have in the past, considering the little you were given, manage it so efficiently. If you said to me, you're going to provide this, like you said, the infrastructure, is there any way you have passed? Because what are we doing now? Contestants say, we're looking for a job. And if you're going to apply for a job, those of you who are from Africa here are consigned. Those who are not even from the world are consigned. What we're doing as presidential candidates is applying for the job of being the CEO of the enterprise called Nigeria. And if you're applying for a job, you come with your, tell us what we can do, what you intend to do, how you want to do, where you've done it before. So we can go and verify and scrutinize and know whether you're telling us the truth. So that when we hire you, we know we're hiring the right person. Not that when we hire you, like it often happens, you start telling us what you saw when you came. Or start blaming somebody in the past. If that person was doing good, we won't hire you. We hired you because we know that that person wasn't doing the right thing. Like it says about infrastructure. So we know there's a problem with infrastructure. So we don't want to hire somebody who will come and telling us excuse or blaming somebody else. We want to hire somebody who will say the job of a leader is to solve problems and providing solutions. Not blame, not complain. And that is what it is. Nigeria today, like he mentioned, and Africa in general, is going through as big, as promising, as everything as it is going through a very difficult time, like most nations of the world. But ours is a bit worse because of cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. They have refused to address the critical areas of development, and that has accumulated into what we're seeing today. People complain every day, oh, this is happening in Nigeria. Talking about security, talking about infrastructure, talking about this. There's no country that will not go through what we're going through today if they are going through our phase. We have today several millions of people, the highest actually, in one nation living under poverty. That is actually in sub-Saharan Africa, is we and Congo. So we have millions of out-of-school children. We have huge unemployment, especially youth unemployment. The unemployment today is about 33%, 35%, with youth unemployment component of it about 60%. You can't have it, even in this UK today. If you move unemployment in the UK today to 15%, none of you will be here. That I know very well, and I told them that in America yesterday. I said, so it's a simple thing. If you have youths, India, with all their talent, very energetic, doing nothing, you're going to have crisis. You have crisis of insecurity and everything. So there's so many things that are going wrong. So for us, is what is the solution to solving it? How do we start dealing with this? How do we start solving it? And that is why I said, yes, I can give you a lecture on this and everything, but in interaction, we'll be able, to listen to you, learn from you, tell you some of the things I think we can do to solve it. And some of the things I will tell you, I might be wrong, and you can tell me what is better, and I'll take a note, because that's the only way to go. But I assure people that I have a commitment to bring in purposeful leadership that will start addressing these issues aggressively, decisively, and people can see it. I want to be able to tell people, we're going to go out there, whatever we're promised, whatever you're seeing in our manifesto, whatever I'm promising, you will see it being implemented, it will be visible, it will be measurable, so people can say, yes, we met unemployment at 33%. And we've been able to bring it down to this. Not that we met it and we're sent to say, well, this has happened, or start blaming anything for what. No. We want to be able to say, well, listen, when we came in, this is how much power we can generate and distribute. This is where we're going. And everybody can see it. It'll be measurable, no stories and everything. And I have to show evidence where it's been done in the past. So when you hear people, let's start with interaction, that your team starts. I'm here. I'm not in a hurry. Thank you. Thank you for hearing that.
So no, we'll not set up the conversation, so see you guys what we will
Thank you, Mr. Peter, for that very nice opening, nice keynote, which he prefers to not call a keynote, a kind of preamble to an interaction. The next level or the next stage of our interaction today is going to be to introduce the panel. And the panel is supposed to drive conversations in very topical issues. We were very careful to select a panel that was going to be very international. So we have Nicolas Lipolis from Brazil. Nicolas is a DPhil student in his final stages, and he's studying economics, especially as it concerns Africa within the wider context of the globe. A lot of studies on China-Africa relations and things like that in the political economic space. We have Azamati Ebenezer. Azamati is from Ghana. Fun fact is that Azamati is my predecessor. He's past president of the South Africa Society. A very brilliant individual, one of the smartest I have seen. Azamati is an expert in international relations. As humble as Mr. Peter. And then we have Chibugo Akapo. Chibugo Akapo finished MBA here last year. Chibugo is a business owner from Nigeria to Ghana to the UK, importer, exporter. So please, can I ask the three of you to please come and join Mr. Peter Obi and
So thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Peter Obi. I think just drawing from your keynote speech, it's really nice to hear, I think as the youth in this room, leadership that is willing to listen and learn, which is quite different to our experience as Nigerians and also wider Africa. Okay. So we're just going to quickly change the seating arrangement, I think.
Sorry for
so that the main character is in the middle. Okay. So it is nice for us to be having you here today and discussing these many topics. So we're going to range from security and conflict, the macroeconomic situation in the nation. I think as a first question, we wanted to kind of look at the MSc, the small medium enterprise space. So as mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur, and as a youth and a female, I'm not alone. 67% of youth are entrepreneurs in Nigeria, of which 43% are women. And so with the very many difficulties between last year being recorded as 131 out of 190 for doing business in Africa, and you yourself being a businessman, you know that there is a very many hurdles towards doing business. So I think the question really is, the very many reforms that have been put across and said to be implemented, but they're not being implemented, the rising diesel prices, the infrastructure that we have listed. What exactly are the solutions, or some of the solutions? Can we have some insight into some of the solutions that you think these MSc, small medium enterprises, can stand to benefit from you?
Well, number one is to understand the position of MSMEs in context of development or a nation. The greatest contributor to economic growth in any nation, even in the Western world, is this sector. It is the engine of growth of any nation. In fact, it's more visible, it becomes more visible in a developing country, because this is where you have the bulk of your young people who are starting business, who are innovative, who are creative, who have everything. This is this sector. And I can't think of any economy that can survive without it. like I said, in a developing world, if you use countries after, let me maybe choose a number of developing countries that can compare with Africa, Nigeria in particular, because of the large population. You think of about Indonesia. MSMEs in Indonesia actually, in terms of employment, is almost 90% of the people that are employed in Indonesia is employed in this sector. It contributes over 70% of their GDP. In the biggest economy, in terms of the second biggest economy, I know America is the biggest economy, but in terms of productivity and biggest economy, today you can call about China. In China, MSMEs contribute about 60% of their GDP, about the same in productivity and employment. China have 800 million people employed. MSME does about 60%, which are 540 million. In urban areas, it's even higher. And the same thing is what they contribute in their revenue. If you look at the budget of China, which is, last time I checked, it was about 4 trillion annual budget, out of which 3.2 trillion is from tax. 50% of that comes from MSME. So you could see their position. That is the position that we need to aggressively tackle in Nigeria. And you said there have been a lot of programs. You know, when I was talking here, I did say that we are not short of well-written programs. We're not short of well-written manifestos or documents. Then you will fill this place. If you want to fill in Africa, everything, we have well-written programs in Nigeria and everything. But what is lacking is institutionalized institution to drive and implement these so-called beautiful policies and programs and the political way. So these documents are written, signed, and everything, and nothing happens to it. I'll give you an example. Africa, Nigeria in particular, was signatory to Millennium Development Goals in the year 2000. The United Nations sat down and articulated what they can call a visionary agenda for developing nations. All the nations of the world signed it, including all the African countries, Nigeria in particular. This was supposed to, the first phase was from 2000 to 2015. China went back to China and mainstreamed this agenda into their development from local, regional to national. And in 15 years, from year 2000 to year 2015, was able to pull 439 million people out of poverty. India put 207, and so was Vietnam. But the reverse became the case in Nigeria because as soon as nobody remembered it, it was just after the signature, the paper was brought back and thrown somewhere, and that's the end of it. Yeah. So Africa created more poor people, threw more people into poverty. What did they do? That's where MSME came in. They supported MSMEs, small businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, and everything. So, what we are going to do, ask, is that is a transformative, purposeful leadership that is committed in doing what it says, walking the talk and saying, we're going to do this. And I can give example. I've done it in a small way as a governor of the state. When I came in and said, I profess problem is education. Because when you're talking about development, which MSME comes in, you talk about development, you talk about HDI, Human Development Index. And these are three components of it. It is health, life expectancy, education. Very, very critical. Number one for me is education. Number two is education. Number three is per capita income. These are the three things. So when we started, we adopted this NDG and said this is our goal, strategize how we're going to deal with it, starting when education, because everywhere I go, people talk about building infrastructure, even as President was talking. The first infrastructure you need to build is the human infrastructure, because that's what drives all our infrastructure. If you don't put your resources and money into education, forget it. Because it is when you educate the people that they're able to build the other things. You can't start building anything without education. So when we started, we said, listen, we can't take this. Our schools must change. We must change everything. It must happen and all that. And we're number 26, 27 in Wayaka Neko. You can go and verify. By 2011, 12, 13, we're number one. Because we decided this is what we're going to do. And that's what I said here, that it will be visible, it will be measurable. We will do the same program that we're doing today, but we'll do it in such a way that the people will feel the impact. It's not just to announce it in radio and TV and then go home. No. We will be able to say, we said we're going to reach 1 million, and we're going to reach 1 million people. And people will see it. If we say we're doing, say, something along the agriculture, we want to see the productivity in terms of, okay, we've supported this. This was what it used to be. Look at our support. If we say we're going to deal with the issue of energy, power that you said, we should be able to say, when we started, we was generating, distributing 5,000. Today it's 7. And people can feel it. Not just saying it in TV and saying it, and arguing with everybody. You don't need to argue. If you say, if there's no power here, if you bring power, you don't need to tell people. As governor, people used to tell me, we do that. People are passing the road. They know the road was not here before. So why are we going to spend money to commission it again? The people who are passing the road know the road is not here before. People know the schools have changed. So they don't need to say it. I was at an event yesterday, and Chimamanda told a story of how he met a student, a senior prefect, and the senior prefect told that as a student, she had my phone number, and they thought it was just for the sake of it, but that the young girl showed her text exchange between her and the governor. So when I said that every senior prefect while I was governor had my phone number, it was an argument. Everybody who was senior prefect when I was governor would tell you the same thing. They had my phone number because I wanted them to reach me. I don't want to hear from their teachers or their principals. I want to hear from them. And they were telling me the truth. So we would do the right thing.
So, Mr. Obi, very, very interesting answers. You did talk about solutions, and I want to draw you in a bit more on that. In that, yes, you said infrastructure can be made available, all these things can be done, you need to start with education, etc. But what is the use in building schools? What is the need in putting up all sorts of infrastructure to boost education when actually school children in some parts of Nigeria cannot go to school because there is a canker called Boko Haram that is eating into Nigeria, locking schools up, schools that millions of dollars have been spent on to build. Those schools are sometimes locked up, or people are chased from their communities, they can't go to school there, etc. What do you think, in your view, are the actual solutions to this problem? You can build all the schools, you can build all the infrastructure, etc. But if Boko Haram decides to lock out people from those communities, how do we go about that? What are you going to put? What measures practical measures do you intend to put in place to stop this canker?
Well, thank you very much. The Boko Haram is not just stopping school. They actually, I will say to you that the first thing any leader in Nigeria needs to deal with is the issue of insecurity. It's number one problem. It's causing problem in every area, and you need to be very decisive and precise and deal with it head on. It's not just stopping schools, it's affecting our economy. Today, Boko Haram, banditry, and all sorts of criminality have chased out the farmers from the farm. The consequence that we have food inflation, which is the major contributor to our inflation today that is going south. So we need to deal with it. Again, you need to secure the place because nobody, no investor can come to invest in an insecure place and everything, and then put in education, which by then you secure the place, you can start dealing with the issue of education. And when people talk about banditry and all sorts of criminality, especially in the north and everything, again, it's a part of the cumulative effect of that leadership failure over the years, because people who refuse to educate yesterday, abandoned yesterday, have suddenly become our problem. If we had educated these people, trained them, it would have been different. So what we need to do now is to aggressively go back to secure the place. And people will say, how are you going to secure it? I will review the entire security architecture. It is doable. And make it to be responsive and responsible. What do I mean by that? You have to be a definite position, and somebody must be responsible. And if you are not doing it, out. Let somebody else do it. So you can do that. You can secure it and put in place and make sure that all these people that Boko Haram is chasing away, that they are able to control it and invest more in education. You can do it. It's doable. It's something that, like I said, you'll be doing. People will be seeing it. It will be happening.
Yes, Mr. Obi, and I would maybe add this one on, and then Nicholas can come in with a question that is a follow-up to what I'm asking you now. But if you look at the Nigerian budget for 2021, $4.8 billion was assigned the defense sector, which was a rise of 14% of the previous year's budget. That was 4.3 billion. Yet the Nigerian military and the entire security architecture continues to bemoan the lack of resources as one of the major reasons for which it is unable to tackle the insecurity problem in Nigeria. Interestingly, there also seems to be, there may be a lot of ironies in Nigeria, but one of the biggest ironies for me is the fact that Nigeria's security institutions, especially the military, performs incredibly well in international peacekeeping missions around Sudan, Liberia, Sierra Leone, mention them. However, it comes to Nigeria, and then the army commanders are like, no, we can't do this one. And I ask myself, how are you able to do so well in other people's country, but in your own country you cannot do anything? So, what I'm driving at is, do you have any specific practical steps that you intend to take to ensure that the security architecture performs as it is supposed to? Because Nigeria has the largest military in Africa.
Thank you. It's exactly what I said earlier, is to make it to be responsive and responsible. What you asked is what you said is the right thing. Why were they able to do this and then they can't do it within Nigeria? And I can give you an example of that. I always tell people that the teachers that were teaching when we were number 26 and 27 were the same teachers teaching when we became number 1. Nothing changed. But what changed? Leadership. I've come to learn in Nigeria and Africa, people don't do what is expected. They do what is inspected. So, you're on top of it. I'm not going to give it. So it's not a question of telling you, go and do this.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did in school. I said, I'm going to visit all the secondary schools. Don't tell me you're doing this. What happened? We changed the funding of the schools. We had a situation where here is federal government from UBEC, they're giving us money. You are the state, I'm local government, he is school. So they said, this money will come to you, then you give it to me, then I give it to him. And I said, no, it won't happen. Why can't this money go from here to here? These two people, out. Their job is supervision. They said, no. They are supposed to supervise. I said, listen, this man is the person who needs the money. Yes. Our job is supervision. So why are we touching money? They said, no. It's financial guideline. I said, please, let this money go from here to here. So we can do our job as supervision. And all of us.
Yeah.
It was a debate. Schools were shut down for months. Eventually we agreed. But because we are no longer, because that's what happens that when this money leaves here, by the time it gets there, it's far less than it was supposed to get. So when we removed this toll gate, more money came here, and because we're not benefiting with it, we became very, very aggressive in our supervision, so that we were sure this man won't chop it as well. So our job, people do what is expected. And I assure you, it will be different. I don't want to comment about the huge budget you said. Yes, there might not be, the budget might not even be enough. But that little one must be supervised and made to be productive.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Obi. I would just like to return to Chibubu's question and follow up from that. We spoke about the challenge of economic development, SME development, and that's very much tied to the challenge of economic diversification. And that's a quest that Nigeria has been on for a long time. Reforms such as education, power, infrastructure, or security are very important, and they're targeted at the micro level. And we also spoke of institutions, right? And so the flip side of this coin is also thinking about the macro level and the institutions driving that. And one institution that's been very active in the field of economic diversification for the past few years is the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so, it has this multiple exchange rate policy, it has been lending directly to businesses, and this policy has been criticized by many internationally, but it has also been defended as a means of fostering economic diversification. Right now, with the global environment, we know there is a strengthening US dollar, rising interest rates. There's a lot of pressure on the Nigerian economy, a lot of pressure on the Naira. And so, and that makes the current setup increasingly unsustainable. So I'll be interested in knowing if, once elected president, what would you do from the macroeconomic perspective to promote economic diversification in Nigeria, but at the same time keeping economic stability, macroeconomic stability, which is a big challenge for the country, especially with regard to the Central Bank of Nigeria and its role in all this?
Well, let me tell you why it looks as if Central Bank of Nigeria is not involved in even lending directly to businesses, is failure of the fiscal responsibility. You know, it's like you're in a football game and somebody is not playing his wing very well. You find somebody playing his wing and another person's wing. That's what the Central Bank is doing today. If this physical space is doing the right job, Central Bank won't be doing most of the things. They would have focused on the monetary space where there should be. On what you said in terms of diversification, there's enough, that's what I say, there's enough policies already. What you need is to ensure that these policies are implemented strictly as it is. First, just like you said before, to drive this process, you need to have and a great environment with certainty of policies. Not that you say this today and just this tomorrow. No. People need to have certainty that this is what it is, this is what is going to happen and everything. You mentioned issues of exchange rates and all this and everything and what the CBN is doing today. Let me deal with this without even looking at broadly what you want to do. There's no other way. First, I'll tell you what is affecting the exchange rate in Nigeria. It's the physical rascality and the country not being productive. If you have a productive country, which I'll later explain, you export, you earn the dollar, and you exchange, you stabilized. It's simple. There's no other thing to it. And if you have a physical rascality where you are printing money for subsidy, which I have mentioned everywhere, as for me, it's organized crime. So you're throwing money away, and you have massive corruption. This too is creating wealth without enterprise.
Yeah.
And they're chasing this. Wealth must come with enterprise.
Yeah.
There must be productivity. So if you say, when they were describing her, they said she's a businesswoman who owns business. And listen, nobody wants to see her doing very well, living well, without an office, without a daytime job. That is what you don't want to. Any country where public office holders, politicians are richer than business people, forget it.
Yeah.
So we need to deal with that. And that's what I'm going to reverse. And that's what I know, that it is doable, is reversible, so that you can bring all this talent. You know, you're from Brazil. Are you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What we're going through today, even the criminality and everything, was there in Brazil in the past. You had all the problems. But look at what is happening in Brazil. The more you put people out of poverty, the more you bring stability, peace, your rate of exchange. They're simple.
No, thanks. Yeah, and there's a lot of parallels to be made. The poverty and the security issues are very tightly linked, as you expressed very well. And also another challenge that's shared by Brazil and Nigeria and many other economies in Africa and Latin America is dependence on one resource, on natural resources, for example. And you mentioned in your answer, you spoke of the importance of exports and of the importance of the fiscal situation, right? And like it or not, the main export of Nigeria is still overwhelmingly oil. However, it seems that Nigeria is unable to make the most of its oil wealth. We see, since last year, we've seen high oil prices. But nevertheless, Nigeria has its fiscal deficit is still very high. Oil production keeps falling. There's security, there's governance issues. And at the same time, high oil prices are reflected in higher fuel subsidies.
No.
And so I'm interested to know, what would you do to make sure that Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, make the most of their vast oil wealth as the country so has?
Well, you know, the reason why we had a situation where you can't see or compare anywhere in the world where there's high oil prices and we have huge deficits. It's very simple. We're the only OPEC country without the only OPEC country, apart from Venezuela, with sanction, that is not meeting up our oil quota. The reason is because of oil tax. And I've said it everywhere. Oil in Nigeria is being stolen by people in government. Nobody can steal oil. It's not a sweet. You can't go into grocery shop and steal something and put it in your pocket and go away on your back. You can't steal oil like that. For you to steal oil, a ship has to come into your territorial waters, load the oil. And no ship can go into a nation's territorial waters without the approval of its navy. And you load it. For you to leave, you have to have approval. And everybody knows where every ship is on the surface of the earth. It's something that is recorded. So, if somebody is able to take away oil, there's a high level connivance between external and internal people who have organized for the oil to leave. And you can even trace the oil to where it is offloaded. So it's not something, it's not an easy thing to steal. Yeah. It can only be done officially. And that's it. And again, it's worrisome because if you take an amount of money that we're losing, when we need, again, look at our exchange rate, when we need every dime, we're losing huge amount of money, even when all the money won't come to us. I always tell people about what happened to us in July and August. We're operating a high level of budgetary deficit in between January 1st of this year and about 30th of April. First 4 months, our revenue was in the region of about 1.6 trillion. Our expenditure is about 4.7 trillion. So we had a deficit of almost 3.1 trillion in terms of naira. But in 2 months, I said it might not be, all the money might not be coming to us, but shared with our partners. We lost almost 2.83 trillion within these 2 months. In July, our oil production was, on the average, 1,083,000. Our quota is 1.8. So every day we lost 717,000 barrels. That's what we didn't produce. So if you take it in 1 month, it was about 22,227,000. At an average price of $110 per barrel in July, it was $2,445,000,000. And if you multiply that with the 550, I don't want to use the official rate, I want to use parallel, it gives you about 1,344,750,000,000 naira. That's what we lost in 1 month, in July. In August, that situation was worse. We were producing 975,000. So we are losing 825 every day. Multiplied by another 1 month, we lost about 25 million barrels in August. At an average price of 100 is $2.5 billion. Again, we 100 multiplied by 555 is about 1.4 trillion. So if you put these two together, in 2 months, you lost about 2.8 trillion. You had a deficit of about 3.1 trillion in 4 months. And you're not, so aggressively, we're supposed to pursue this and consider that we need every dollar now. However, that's why I said it's official stealing. Because if it's not official stealing, we have 200 million in population. We have about 60% youth unemployment, which is about 20 million youths don't know where the next meal will come from. Is it not pipeline? We go and stand everybody on the line there and make sure that nobody takes 1 barrel of it. I'm prepared to go and stand on the line, all of us, because this is the only resources we have. But because people who are in government are stealing it, they don't want to. And when you say it, everybody is looking for ways to put P2B in detention. This man is causing trouble. This man, but you're saying this thing. Since we know this thing is missing, not all of us go and man the pipeline. It's not pipeline. If we stand there, who will take it? Well, they won't want us to do it because people know those who are taking it. So it's very easy. But Even with that, there's so many other things you can do that when I say we're going to move the country from production, from consumption to production, oil for me is very minor in what Nigeria can do. It's the least of our problem in terms of productivity. Today, we live on a vast land. Nigeria today, just like Brazil, Nigeria today is, we're living on about 925,000 square kilometers of land, 200 million people. Our export last year, you are 250 million. Our export last year is about 10% of your export. It shouldn't be, because we have vast or cultivated land. Yeah. I usually go to a particular state in Nigeria, Niger State, we have a huge fertile land, and it's about 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. Niger State, they can feed themselves, they can do anything. I always compare it with, say, Netherlands. Netherlands without water is about 33,000 square kilometers. So Niger State is 2.5 times Netherlands. Netherlands last year did an export of $120 billion. And Niger State is waiting to share money from oil. And what they get is 4 billion. What they get is 4 billion a month, which in a year they get 50 billion. If they were able to feed themselves and do just 1% of what Netherlands did, in a land with winter and everything, if they're able to just do 1% of it, is $1.2 billion, which if you multiply it, the rate I use today is 650, they will have about 750 billion, 5 times their budget, but they're waiting for 50 billion. So that's why I said we must move the country from consumption to production. There's a lot Nigeria can do. We don't need to wait for oil. With Vietnam, with half of our size in population, which is 100, they are 100 million, we are 200 million. They live on a third of our land. Their land space is 331,000 square kilometers. The total export last year is about $312 billion. Ours in official rate is about $47 billion. And if you use the real rate, it's about 30. We can't be doing 10% of what those with a third of our land, half of our population is doing. And what did they export? They exported electronics, manufactured goods. They exported clothing. What is in clothing? But a minute. We have food tellers that are doing very well in Nigeria. And they did this $32 billion worth of clothing. That's twice what we earn from oil. The footwear, they got even more money from footwear than we did in oil. So forget oil. For me, I'm not going to focus on oil. I'm going to focus on how do we get this vast land cultivated? How do we, and it comes to what it's going to do. We're going to put money in, we're going to put everything, power, money in hands of the young people. We have energetic, talented youth that can change the world. But nobody has supported them. Nobody has cared about them. Instead, they are being called all sorts of names and everything. They tell you, oh, they are doing some one kind of criminality or the other. That brain and energy they are using to do all those things, if you reverse it, they use it for something positive.
I'd just like to pick up on the point you made about young people and the point made about alluding to corruption in terms of like the law. Nigeria has an incredibly young population, and there's an even younger population in the diaspora. People like me who grew up in the UK, Nigerian heritage, but grew up in the UK. How would you encourage Nigerians such as myself to reinvest into Nigeria, and how can you encourage trust in the government?
Well, very simple. If you're talking about let me deal with what you mentioned about corruption. There's nothing difficult in fighting corruption. I'm not a saint. And nobody is. We're all just trying to. But I always say to people, if the principal person, which is me, for example, is not stealing, or you reduce your greed, because often it's not just stealing, just people steal what they don't need. So you reduce your greed. Because when somebody starts owning houses all over the world, it's madness. Yeah. Because they don't need them. So if the principal person is not stealing, your family and those around you are not stealing, you reduce it by 70%. Because you are going to approve what they will steal. So if you're not taking, nobody will take it. That's one thing I can tell you. I was governor of a state for 8 years. In that 8 years, I will show you something that my head of service wrote. Very fantastic article where it says stinginess as a development strategy. If you're not stealing, in the 8 years, we didn't owe one supplier. We didn't owe one contractor. The day I left office, I've executed his job. And if you go, and I give an example, we were number one. I became governor in 2000 of MDG in 2008. But by the time they finished in 2015, we were number one in terms of MDG implementation in Nigeria. So we lost 7 to 8 years, yet we were number one. I've told you what we did with our schools. If you go, those who were in secondary schools will tell you, if you go to our secondary schools today, you see 2 buses. When we went to HP to buy a computer, I ordered 1,000 desktop every day. They said, we've never seen this type of order in Africa. We said, we're going to pay you. We have all the things. We did a few things, which I won't say there, but go and verify. But the day I left office, I was not owing pension, gratuity. I've cleared all the outstanding gratuity. We're not owing salary. We're not owing contract. We're not owing anything. And we had in 3 banks, 50 million and dollars and over 10 billion naira for the state. We had in Diamond Bank $50 million and over 10 billion naira. Had the same figure in Fidelity Bank. These are banks in Nigeria. So whenever people said to me about corruption, I said, okay, well, listen, I have managed to this state money. This is what I left. I have signed CFOs of over 10,000. I have no single land belonging in Anambra State given to me directly or indirectly. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I'm saying let us start. He wants to, he said she will fight corruption. Let's know how she managed the last money we gave her. I know how you manage the last one we gave you. That's why we say, okay, this person can manage it better, or is less greedy. I lived in the UK before I became governor. It was from here that I went to Congo. I always tell people, where I live in the UK is where I live till today. It's not changed. I declared that house and I live there. And also, when people talk about the education and everything, I always tell people, because I went to these schools on my own, I came to George School here, and they managed to put my name as their alumnus and everything. And because I interact with a lot of people, and I see them talk when one of us goes do something bad. I say, listen, hey, I was in State School here, I was in George School, I was in Cambridge and all these things. People often wonder me if I'm just, by the way, they said, Peter, why did you go to all these schools? I said, well, I just wanted to know whether there's something in their brain that is not in a normal brain, so I went to all the schools so I can get more. So, but what I'm saying, because I passed through them, I'm also very careful. If anything goes wrong, and they put my name here, and the whole world will read it. So what am I going to tell myself? Why don't I just restrict myself and do what is right and go home in peace? So what am I saying about corruption? You can control it. You can deal with it. It is not far. The other extension of the other question you asked before I lose it is the issue of, remind me, the diaspora. Whenever people say to me, they said, we have a brain drain, which includes you. which improves my own. But let me tell you, I said to them, you will be brain gain. When we get things working in Nigeria, the first set of investors we'll get is you. And we'll fix it. And I assure you, all of you will come running. There's something I told her when I met her this evening. I told her that foreign investment is like bee and honey. If you bring honey here, close this door, bees will come in. And that's what I want to go and do in Nigeria. Fix the place, make it attractive, put low regulatory environment, that people like you, the world is looking to where to invest and make huge money. You can't do it here in the West. It's so difficult to do it here. No. You can't do it any other way. The only place remaining is Africa. All you want is rule of law, law and order, regulatory environment, good governance. I won't even, you will see yourself coming from all corners to come and invest. And that's what we're going to do.
Mr. Obi, I will draw you in on this a little bit. Yes, once you fix Nigeria, Chibugu might end up being in Nigeria to be an exporter from Nigeria. She would have to leave the UK and go there. Yeah. Even if she doesn't go, I'll push her there. But just to draw you in on this. Yes, His Excellency Peter Obi fixes Nigeria in 8 years. Great. Exporters are running down to Nigeria. Chibugu is no more in the UK. Everybody is gone, investing in Nigeria. Nonetheless, Nigeria is not an island. Nigeria is surrounded by countries that are either in conflict or are having challenges with security. Talk about Chad, talk about Northern Cameroon, the Sahel region, etc. As we speak, 316,000 Nigerians from the northeastern part of Nigeria are seeking refuge in Chad. As we speak, over 2 million Nigerians are displaced in the country. Not mainly because of the insecurity problem in Nigeria, but then the insecurity in countries around Nigeria. So yes, very confident in fixing Nigeria. But how do you ensure practically that the insecurity in countries around Nigeria do not seep into Nigeria when you have expended all your energy fixing Nigeria, but then you realize that, oh, actually I have a problem outside that I haven't fixed or I haven't helped in fixing?
Well, I said that foreign policy and relation will remain Africa-centric. That means that as we work hard to turn around and build a robust economy domestically, we're also working closely with other blocs in ECOWAS and African Union to ensure that things work in Africa, because honestly, Nigeria cannot be fixed alone. Other African countries, that's why they formed African Peer Review Mechanism. We need to compare notes. We need to be sure. Whatever I say about Nigeria is something that needs to happen all over Africa. We need to have leadership that are purposeful, transformative, and committed to change all over Africa. And they need to compare notes. They need to be able to say, well, this is this and everything. Just like it happens in other continents. If there's conflict today in any part of Europe, European Union does not just sit down, they tackle it as a union, because it will affect all of them. Today we have conflict in Ukraine, it's affecting the world. So everybody is trying to see how to stay together. We already have African Union, we already have West African Union. So whatever you're going to do, but you can only do that first by fixing your own internal position, making it stable, robust, and productive. If you're not, you cannot earn respect. I always say when people say to me, G7, G20, G40, G whatever it's called. It is because of your economy. If your economy is good, they put you in 1G. If your economy is not good, you are not in it, you become G-less. You have to beat your people. So all these G's are based in economy. So we want to be in the G's first, then we'll start bringing other people in.
Great. Mr. Obi, so I'll draw in maybe my final question to you, and then maybe Chi can ask about the Africa Trade Agreement. You brought in Ukraine and Russia. In 1963, Sir Abubakar Tafawa said, I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing him, as a people, we believe in our own right as Africans, and we believe that we have a stake in the world. Therefore, we are not joining others to build their stake. Now, what that meant was that Nigeria was non-aligned, simplicity. But today in the UN, since the Russian-Ukrainian conflict started, we've seen that Nigeria seems to be shifting its position from that non-aligned status. Now I have two questions in this. In your view, do you think it's about time Nigeria took a position? And if it is, why? How will it be useful to Nigeria? Then the other question is, if Nigeria is seeking to be a permanent member of the UN Security Council, which it has been doing, which it's been seeking since 1986, how does that help Nigeria if it is shifting it in a dream forever?
Well, my position is that 1963 is a long way to remain where you are in 1963. That means things have changed, that you can no longer, positions government take and everybody. One thing that is constant is change. One thing that is constant is, and when I mean change, transformative change, that things grow and everything. There's no way, when I went to school, we take notes. I've learned to copy notes. I didn't know anything. I came to state school here to do a program, and the day I arrived, they said every note, everything you need is in your system. I said, what do you mean? Where is the notes? They said, no. You go into your laptop, everything has been loaded there, your assignments, everything. I said, my God, where is the notes? So everything has changed. So I'm not going to start arguing with them. Listen, we want somebody to teach me to do this, and all my assignments, I have to submit it. So everything has changed. Yeah. And what I tell them, I said, because it's changed, I have to change. I didn't know when I was going to school that I one day be typing, be doing this thing. How many people who did Zoom, these founders of Zoom, in about 2015, I was in America for something, and they were telling me about that meetings will soon be accelerated, should just take this. Somebody was asking me to invest, I said, take it that you're talking rubbish. But here we are, today, everybody says to me, hey, wait a minute, we can call. So the world is changing. I cannot say today, because instead of having Zoom meeting, that I want to see people physically, because we used to see physically in 1970. No. Yeah. You change because the situation has changed. So Nigeria has changed. When you talk about where we are, for me, issue of Ukraine and Russia, I'm of the opinion that it should be dealt as aggressively as possible through dialogue. I believe.
We only have time for one more question, so
okay.
We'll move on to the African trade.
Okay.
Well, just in line with change being constant, the recently signed African Trade Agreement, looking at Nigeria, the African Regional Integration Index, we scored quite poorly. There's poor trade integration within the African nation. Nigeria's largest trading partner is China, and I think about 3% of imports coming in from other African countries. How do you plan to foster, multilateral trade with other African nations so that when you have, refined or reformed those internal structures within Nigeria, Africa at large is able to benefit off of that as well?
You see, inter-trade within Africa is very critical for Africa.
Yeah.
In terms of trade today between continents, between every continent, Africa is the lowest.
Yeah.
It's far, I think, about 5% or so. Every other continent, Europe is over 60%. In South America, in America, North and South America, is almost 50%. In Asia, it's almost 40%. In Africa, it's 5%. So, for you to do that, it will help the overall Africa. Africa today is a population of about 1.4 billion, the entire Africa, with a per capita of about $2,000. You need to trade is at the heart of turning it around. Africa today needs to grow its GDP to a minimum of about 10 trillion. It needs to increase its per capita to twice what it is today, which is the minimum average. You can find in other continents that are talking about. Of course, Europe is about 30,000 for the whole of Europe. And you look at the productivity and inter-trade, it will surprise you. It's a continent like Europe. Europe is the total of about, the total population is a third of Africa. In terms of land size, it's the same thing. But in terms of trade, inter-trade and everything, they're about 10 times or so. There's gaps. And these are things you can do in order, when Africa inter-trade, when Africa becomes productive, it will go a long way. After is something I will embrace. The reason why it is as if Nigeria is dragging their foot in after is because we've not fixed our internal position.
Yeah.
So when you have not fixed the internal position, you don't want to. It's like when somebody says, oh, let's come out for competition. You say, no, I'm not prepared, because you need to train your own team and be ready for the competition. But the other person is saying, okay, let's come. So we need to fix it, and doing it is not rocket science. It's something you can do. If Nigeria today can increase power production, distribution, I can assure you just power. If you deal with this one physical asset, for every 1,000 power you add, you could add probably, for every 1,000, half to 1% to your GDP. So you can aggressively pursue this. You can bring the intangible assets of rule of law, law and order, which is, I talk about the greater environment. There's nothing that is in the UK here. The biggest contributor to the UK GDP, I live here, is intangible assets of rule of law. Because you're sure that if I buy a house in Oxford, or I invest in a property in Oxford, if I do anything in Oxford, if anything goes wrong, there's a place I can go and complain, and somebody will listen to me. If somebody sells land to me or sell assets to me, or I buy a company, I'm not going to have a problem. Nobody's going to charge me for power that I didn't use. Nobody's going. So everything has to be. If you bring all these small bits, which are intangible, you change the place.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Mr. We're going to move on to audience questions now. So please raise your hands and I will call on you.
Wow.
We only have,
I thought we were finished.
Should we start?
we only have,
So many
we
questions.
don't have long to ask questions. We only have 10 minutes. So please keep your questions short, and if you stay, if you can, please stay. Please keep your answers brief as well. So I look to please project as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peter. My name is Adebisi Adinfo. I'm studying for Master in Public Policy here at the University of Oxford. We know that leadership is different, and you have communicated so well to us today the dream about Nigeria. If elected as president of Nigeria, you cannot do it alone. One set of people that we have continued to overlook in question to make a change in the country is civil service. My question to you is, what is your perception of the civil service in Nigeria today? And how do you want to work with civil service to achieve your dream for Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Chioma Achi. I'm a postdoctoral fellow here at the University of Oxford. My question is simple. To be able to, you've spoken about a lot of nice policies, but to do this, you also need the support of the legislative arm. So I do know that there are not a lot of people who are contesting under that power. How do you intend to get their support when you get into power? And then secondly, we've had a recurrent issue of presidents, Nigerian presidents, going outside the country for treatments. So if you become the president of Nigeria, how do you ensure that that doesn't happen? And then on a final note, I want you to know that the movement of these young people is for our generations to come. We want to get to a point where if you get into position, we want to get our children back to Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the question.
One more person behind you.
No, maybe. Okay, I thought it was that.
Yeah.
You can go.
Please, Governor.
Axel.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Unlike many of the people seated here, I am actually a student from the University of Edinburgh. I'm studying African and my name is Mr. Marcel. My question to you, Mr. Peter Obi, is actually hinged on something that you just said. I was going to ask the question, but I found something to connect to in the course of your speech earlier. And it is about corruption, about the fact that what we need to do to address corruption in Nigeria is to reduce it. I slightly disagree with that because apparently almost every politician in Nigeria would of course want to have tarred roads, good infrastructure, bring a couple of legacies to be proud of. But we tend to think that we can actually do the bare minimum and still survive. And at the moment, what Nigeria needs is not just a reduction of corruption or a reduction of greed, but rather somebody who would just not expect anything. Now, I'm sorry, going back to 2019, there was this conversation around how you invested part of funds from Anambra State in companies that you were somewhat associated with, or companies that you were extended family had an interest in. Now, it's very difficult to understand because for independent readers and independent thinkers, it would be difficult to see Mr. Peter Obi as this saint that he is being portrayed as. Now, I would now want to ask you this question. The problems that we have in Nigeria are not just economic. We also have social problems. Sometimes the insecurity problems.
So what's your question, sir?
Yeah. Sometimes the insecurity issues that we have in Nigeria are conflict issues that need some kind of resolution. And without trust in a political leader, who, for example, in 2019 saw no problem in investing state funds in companies that had interest in, how can you address these social problems given the kind of questionable public image? Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me do this 5, and I'll start with the zone. Let me tell you, when they asked that question in 2019, did you get my answer?
Yes, but I wasn't satisfied with the answer.
What answer did I give? I said it's false. It didn't exist.
Yeah, you said you invested in a lot of companies.
No, that I said it didn't exist. Which company? And I give you an example. We invested in a lot of companies. For example, we invested maybe in, say, 10 banks. I'm just giving you an example. And because I'm a shareholder in one, they say it's a company I'm interested, I have interest in. It's like somebody told me yesterday, they said you didn't do anything, you just saved money. I said, I wish other leaders didn't do anything and kept our money.
Yeah.
We would have been we would have been so happy today. But we didn't see the money, we didn't see anything. So, the investments, let me give you a typical investment which anybody can say, I was involved with a family. or my family is interested. We didn't invest money in it. And investment was minimal. We put land. Somebody says, I'm coming to invest here. And we said, the state will give you land. This land will constitute this percentage for us. And we invested in it. We put money in it. It wasn't a situation where the state is looking for its money. So when people talk about, it wasn't a state, the state, it wasn't a situation where I put this money in my private business. I didn't invest this in a business that I own, but I own a share in, say, Standard Lloyds Bank here. And as Prime Minister, I felt I needed to save money, and part of those we invested was Lloyds Bank. And people say, oh, you invested money. The other people who are saying, where did they invest their own? They didn't invest anything. The money was lost. So we didn't take, I agree with you. It would have been a situation where I invested money in Obi and Sons business. And let me tell you the company they are talking about. It's International Breweries. International Breweries is, I'm just trying to, where's the biggest brewery in Brazil?
Where it is?
The world biggest brewery in Brazil. Abimbev own came to Nigeria. I came to the UK here, kneeling down as governor. I brought South African breweries into Nigeria. South African breweries bought over Abimbev. Abimbev wanted to freeze Nigeria to do Budweiser, do everything. And I went to them and said, please, come and do a plant in my state. They came to Anambra State. We gave them land. That land converted into equity. Abimbev built where they're producing Budweiser, all these things and everything. Okay. Anambra became the vice shareholder, even signed agreement with them that they are going to employ 60% of their workers will come from Anambra State. Kept the land, did everything, and again, okay, fine. Because of our relationship with them, that as a trader, I brought them into Nigeria. We own maybe about 1% of the. They say, oh, he brought the company that is owned by him. You know it that nobody can own any multinational and he has no business. So that's it. It's not Obi and Sons. It's not Obi and his children. So when people talk and everything and all that, and the money invested in it is there. It's clear where the money came from and the investment is there. Everybody can see it. Let me tell you, that facility is the highest taxpayer in Anambra State. I want people to tape it. Is the highest tax in terms of income. Is the highest taxpayer in Anambra State, employing 60% of Anambra people. Nobody's getting that type of job. But it's good for the clarification. So I want you to trust me. Let leaders of Nigeria invest our money where we can see it. Keep it. Even if they don't do any work, keep the money. Even in religion, I'm a Christian. In Bible, somebody didn't, they said, the man said he would have kept his money if he knew he was a wicked man. At least he can find his money.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, please.
Thank you. This one is long. The rest won't be long. You know, on medical tourism, I can tell you, issue of medical tourism, as governor, I have not had the opportunity of traveling out for most times, quite frankly, when people talk about medical tourism, it's not as people make it look. For me, people in government don't know. We have fantastic doctors locally. I live there. I had the opportunity of going to hospital here. But I can tell you, I've never been to hospital because I'm usually not sick, you know, but I've had it. But I've had cause of having a very minor yes, because when I told them I'm going to stand here, they say, oh, everybody has to sit down. I prefer to stand, but I've had cause to have a minor procedure here. But what was shocking is that the doctors here didn't know what was wrong with me. It was doctors in Onitsha who said to me, you need to do something about this. Just remove it, if you can't now. And I came here, I saw doctor here, and he said, look at what they told me. He said, yes, we can do it. I said, okay. He referred me to somebody else, who is again, a white person. He said, yes, we can do it. I booked for hospital, ready to do it. The day I went into that hospital, guess what happened? 2 black people turned up. No longer the doctors were telling me, and the 2 black people, one is from Imo, one is from Ondo State. So, we have enough doctors, we have people who can do these things at home. It's psychological. Let me not say things that make people say, oh, want to go to this place, go to that place. Some of those places we are going, we have better home, but we need to improve. Yeah. By improving it, people will stay back. In issue of legislative arm, let me tell you, the legislator in his constituency, there's criminality, there's issue. You can work with them, and that person who talked about civil servant, I'll tell you the same thing. The civil servant, I said here, are the same thing. You can do what is inspected, and they will. I showed something. Can I have my phone? I told you something. My head of service for the first 6 months. You know, when I became governor, within the first 6 months, I was impeached. They threw me out of office. Because they didn't understand what this man is trying to cause. And everybody was happy with it because, hey, I was a driver carrying passengers who have since passed their destination, and the only thing they can do is to remove it. But I always show this. My head of service, uniquely, very uniquely, I'll tell you, very uniquely, wrote something that is when I started this journey. My head of service is one of the best trained people, a son of a famous judge in Nigeria who was respected. And when I came into office, every day she was there crying, people are not happy with you, people are not this, because of what we're talking about, civil servants. The civil servants are not happy, they want to go on strike, they don't want to, oh no, what is this man? Where did they bring this man from? This man is here causing confusion all over the place. So we are legislators. Not one came from my party. So I was working with parallel people, and everybody was complaining. And that was the basis of my impeachment. Because they said, whatever he wants to do, he was cutting costs. I was saying, this cannot happen, but I'll show it to her. Look at her name. Barrister Ngozi Meleform, head of service under Governor Peter Obi. Look at the topic. He said, can you read it out?
Stinginess as a development strategy.
Stinginess of them. So, while I was shopping every day, everybody was complaining. But what happened? After 1 year, I started paying off the gratuities they were owing. Started paying off the pension they were being owed. They were everything, and they were, where did you get the money? I said, it was not your money that I saved. Because when I came into office, the office of the governor was consuming about 30% of the money. And I said, no, we'll bring it down. Education, 10%. Health, 10%. Road, this. By the time we see resource allocation based on IMDG, office of the governor was left with 4%. So I needed to chop off everything. Governor of Anambra State does not need a lodge in Abuja. He doesn't live in Abuja. No. We don't need a presidential lodge. We don't need this. We don't need this. They had even, like in Nigeria, they have what they call office of first lady. My wife didn't contest the election. Nobody voted for her. It wasn't possible. So why are we going to have office? Two of us are very close. I say, okay. She knows me and my wife are like this. When she's looking for me, it's my wife that she looks for. I said, since two of us are one, let's hold one office. Let's close down this one. So save money. And that was what we found money. But that didn't go down well with people because they have office advisors to the first lady and everything. You're advising somebody who have no office, no nothing, everything, just to create confusion. The civil servants will do what you want. So is legislators. When you put things and you're doing it transparently and everything, like she asked a question now, there's nothing wrong with the question he asked. I said it here, I'm not a saint. But I have shown considerable evidence that this is what I did. Those who are claiming, where did they leave money? Who are they owing? So let everybody come and tell us what is done. And then we'll take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Mr. Oba, I'd like to thank you for joining us here at the Oxford Union. I'd also like to thank the President of the African Society for joining us.
I need to do the conclusion.
But yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
No. He's going to do his closing speech.
We will have the over.
Of course. Yeah, no, he's going to do his closing speech and then we'll close.
Well, let me start again by thanking you for this wonderful time. Basically, what the appeal I'm making and as I go around, I said it at the beginning, that there's a lot of us who are applying for this job to be CEO of this enterprise called Nigeria. I thank you for inviting me. And I know you've invited other candidates as well. And I want you to give them opportunity of coming to be with you the way I was with you today. Listen to them. Let them not send delegates or representatives. When people campaign here, I had people in America yesterday, when Obama was talking, was he speaking through spokesperson? No. They said no. When Liz and everybody, all these people were campaigning, they come through spokespeople? No. So let everybody come physically. Tell you what you will do, take note. Because what happens in our place is that, so you can tape him. What happens in our place is that people come, tomorrow he says, I didn't say it, it was my party or somebody who said it. We want to listen to them what they want to say. Nobody goes for interview. All of you go one day looking for a job. Nobody's going to go for interview for you. You go physically yourself. So we are now looking for a job. It must be a physical appearance. If they like, let them even do it through Zoom. But they must be interviewed directly. But I prefer that they come here. There's enough way to come here. You know, there's train. Somebody, I've already bought train ticket when somebody offered to drive me down. This train is very easy. If you come out of train, this is State Business School. You can come anywhere. If you want bicycle, there's enough bicycle in Oxford to drive you around. Anything you want. So let them come. Don't allow them to. Next year's election in Nigeria should not be based on ethnicity. Please, I'm begging you people, for those of you who are Nigerians, and for those of you who are Africans and everything who are supporting Nigeria, do not support any ethnic group against the other. There's no ethnic group in Nigeria that buys bread cheaper than the other. They are all suffering. There's insecurity everywhere. North, south, east, west. You here have the capacity in your own little way to contribute. The society will keep him quiet and allow them to abuse today. Will only do one thing. You want to come back no, you can't come back because there's no place to go. I want you to come back. If you don't help to change it, it will take revenge on you and your children. God bless all of you.
Thank you so much.
Everything to a close. And you already started to do what I wanted to start with. But I wanted to tell a special guest of honor, His Excellency Governor Peter Obi, as I call him my brother, that his own 4 C's, character, competence, capacity, and commitment. I've been very public about my own 4 C's, the character, competence, compassion, and courage. And many others have their 4 C's. So I'm absolutely honored that you have demonstrated in the short time that we've had together, through practical examples, some of what you will do to tackle the challenges of a great nation, Nigeria, so that it can realize its potential, so that so that Africa can realize its potential, and so that we can truly have a world that does work for everybody. But I just want to add that there is one other attribute which I would like people to see that you've shown, which is E for energy. I don't know how you do it. To 4 or 5 cities in the US. You were in Nigeria on the 2nd of October, traveled to 4 or 5 cities, and these are commercial flights. And you arrived today in the UK and in Oxford at 3:45 p.m. So you've got an absolutely amazing energy. The other thing I wanted to say is that if we left it to Governor Peter Obi, as I've always referred to him, we served on the economic management team of the president together when he was governor. He would be here responding to every question that each one of you has asked. But the Oxford Union has been absolutely wonderful, and I want to thank the president of the Oxford Union and all of the team. There was somebody upstairs and others, and the man who's wearing the red, who's been guiding the students who have organized this through this. And we have to be respectful of them, because we need to make sure that we vacate this premises, this beautiful historic place in a few minutes. So that's why we're not able to take all of the many questions that people are asking. I also just want to say, especially to the Oxford Union, a big thank you. So please, if you can join me in giving the Africa Society, particularly the President, Emeka, the past President, who was one of our panelists, as a matter, Amaka, a past President of the Society, and many of you who are the African Society members, for pulling this off. First, for having us be in the verified group, the Oxford community, who has hosted an amazing, phenomenal African leader, who is intent not for private gain, but to see change happen in Africa, happen in Nigeria particularly, and happen in society. So thank you, Emeka, to you and your colleagues. And to the panelists, Nicholas, Azamata, Chi, Joshua, I am so excited about what the world could be with people like you. I hope each one of you, in your own time, will be leaders in your country, leaders in society, because what you demonstrated through the issues that you raised today, for me, is phenomenal. I'm so, so proud. So please give the panelists and to my brother and His Excellency Governor Peter Obi, as I continue to refer referred to him. I hope I can say President Peter Obi. I hope that I also speak on behalf of the entire Oxford community. And all of those, my brother who's traveled from Edinburgh, I have a brother who I met 2 days ago at the London Business School at a forum that I spoke at on sustainability and how to finance sustainable growth in Africa. He promised me, you should wait so everybody will know who my brother is. He promised me that he'll be here today, and he is here. My sister who found out 15 minutes just before this started, and who said she must be here and brought her daughter and others, and you need to wave as well. Who is a professor in climate policy, and all of those who decided that it is important for us to hear from a leader who has demonstrated, first of all, that he's done it before. And I like the obedience to say, go and verify. A leader who has demonstrated that he is open to learn, he wants to bring up your issues, he will respond to them with data. I was trying to keep up with the data on the oil stealing. The one I could retain was, in August, 25 million barrels of oil were literally stolen. And for those of you who know that I'm on Twitter, I've already tweeted that. This is a leader who has his facts right. This is a leader who has done it before. This is a leader who has shown us practical examples of what he will do on day one. So all we can do, sir, is to wish you well and to pray that a leader like you who has compassion, who has courage, will succeed in leading a nation like Nigeria, which is so important to society. I do want to then say, please join me in applauding our special guest and also applauding yourself.
Meeting while Mr. Peter Obi and his team leaves first, and after that you can follow up as well.
And once we step outside of the courtyard, those who want to take a picture with Mr. Peter Obi can just all come forward, because from here it is
in an orderly manner.
Yeah, it is in a very orderly manner.
Do people want to take pictures? Outside. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.